The franchise that hires up-and-coming defensive coordinators, young guys in their 30s to be head coach, and has done so for their last 3 hires, bucks every one of their trends and hires 62-year-old offensive guy Mike McCarthy, Greenfield's own, yes he is, to be the 4th Steelers head coach since 1969. Good Saturday afternoon. Chris Mueller in for what I will call an emergency show. The Steelers don't ever hire head coaches. And so when they do, especially when it's pretty much the one guy no one seemed to want hired, I come on the air on a Saturday. I tell the wife and kids, sorry, Dad's got to go to work, and this is what we do. The number's 412-928-9370. I know many of you have already been lined up and ready to go, and I will get to you shortly. I will make some opening remarks here. We've got a lot going on today. It's going to be a very fast-moving show. We will try to get to as many of you as we can on this front. I've got Adam Crowley lined up at 4 o'clock. He's going to have some things to say about this. I've got Joe Starkey going to come on to give his take at 4:30. Jeff Hathorn is here. I expect to talk to Jeff maybe in the next 20 minutes or thereabouts, and still more to come after that. But this is a seismic event in Steelers history because, like I said, they don't hire head coaches very often, and I'll just say it's a terrible hire. This is no shade against Mike McCarthy personally. I think his record would suggest that he is a good coach in balance. If you give C's for average, if that's what you do the old grading system. If you're a C student, you're an average student. He's probably a B- head coach. He is remarkably similar in his recent track record to what Mike Tomlin is, a guy that tends to win more than he loses in the regular season, and a guy who doesn't really win playoff games. From 2017 onward, he coached 2 years with Green Bay, got fired after week 13 with the Packers in 2018, took 1 year away, went to Dallas for 5 seasons. McCarthy won 12 games in 3 straight years with the Cowboys. He won 1 playoff game in those 7 seasons. That's it. Or 6+ because he got fired midstream in Green Bay. He is a guy whose greatest successes were very early in his career as a head coach with the Packers. After some stops and starts, he won the Super Bowl. They got red hot. They beat the Steelers. They went 15-1 the next year and couldn't go back-to-back. Mike McCarthy's got about a 61 career winning percentage, 608 to be exact. He's won 174 games, and he's won slightly more playoff games, 11-11, than Mike Tomlin, who only won 8 in his Steelers career. I would give this hire an F. I am going to stand on business on this one. I said when he got an interview that I would give the hire an F. I am not moving off of that position. It is an F hire by Art Rooney II and by Omar Khan. I can think of a couple different things that this hire is to me. I think it's pretty uninspiring. The Steelers aren't taking any big risk here. The Steelers aren't looking for the next big thing in coaching. They aren't looking for somebody to steward and shepherd the franchise through the next decade plus. They're looking for a Band-Aid right now for a situation that requires far more than that, like full surgery and then rehab. They are looking for a tourniquet right now. They don't have one. They don't have a situation that requires a tourniquet. Mike McCarthy is the guy you hire if you think you have a team that is ready to win now and for whatever reason under the previous coach wasn't winning, has a quarterback in place, has a roster in place, and maybe needs somebody with experience working with fairly big-name quarterbacks to come in and try to push things over the hump. Honestly, he would have been better suited for the job in Buffalo if that's what you're really looking for. This is none of those things. This roster is none of those things. This franchise is none of those things. And Mike McCarthy seems like an ill fit. He frankly seems like they've gone from Mike Tomlin, defensive coach, to Mike McCarthy, offensive coach. No real other difference between the two. If you give me the option of watch another season of Mike Tomlin coach the Steelers or this, I would take watch Mike Tomlin coach the Steelers, even though I know how that movie ends. Because I'm pretty sure I know how this movie ends too. It is an uninspiring, unimaginative, and I think incredibly short-sighted decision by Art II and by Omar Khan. And it reeks on one level of, I think, Omar Khan going back in time to one of his buddies that he had when he was with New Orleans, when McCarthy was the offensive coordinator, getting the boast out of Aaron Brooks early in his coaching career, and tapping that guy to lead the way. It's also, I think, a consolidation of power by Omar Khan, because I don't think Mike McCarthy, despite a lengthy history as a head coach, is somebody who's going to be pushing back hard on whatever Omar Khan wants to do from a personnel standpoint. The Steelers had numerous options available to them in this coaching cycle. They picked the one nobody wanted. There are doubtless people who will prove me, I guess, somewhat wrong by saying, I love this hire. I can't wait for Mike McCarthy. I think you're going to be disappointed. In fact, I think that pretty strongly, that you're going to be very disappointed in what you get from Mike McCarthy. Where's the quarterback on the roster? Where's the offensive infrastructure for Mike McCarthy? Where's the young, explosive, cheap talent on defense? There's a couple spots, that's it. The Steelers hired a man to be their next head coach who, to everyone's collective knowledge, had one other quasi-interested team in his services for that role. And he pulled himself out of that job search when it became evident that they weren't going to hire him. By the way, that team, the Tennessee Titans, for all its warts, does have last year's number 1 overall pick at quarterback. A guy in Cam Ward who, if you actually watched him, is the kind of player whose basic raw abilities you can dream on a little bit. And think about this. If McCarthy worked with early career Aaron Rodgers and then worked with mid-career Dak Prescott, why wouldn't the Titans want him instead of a defensive coach to work with Cam Ward? They must have been pretty underwhelmed, I would think, by Mike McCarthy, the candidate. You know who wasn't? Art Rooney II. I said Omar Khan influenced this. I think he did significantly influence it, but it is Art's hire, and it is Art's hire alone. It is what he will be remembered for, and unless people like me are incredibly wrong, and I'm quite confident that that won't be the case, he's going to be remembered for making one of the most uninspiring, lethargic, I would almost say lazy hires, even pandering hires in Pittsburgh coaching history across any team. That's how bad I think this is. Mike McCarthy might come in next year and somehow win 10 games because, I don't know, he doesn't have the Mike Tomlin voodoo where they win crazy close games. He's had losing seasons, a bunch of them. 6-10 after his first winning season. 7-9, 4-7-1 when he got fired by the Packers. 6-10 his first year at the Cowboys. 7-10. Maybe they go and actually don't win more than they lose next year. Maybe they win 6 games and draft a quarterback, and then maybe Mike McCarthy chills for 3 more years and starts developing that guy to be the next big thing for them. I don't see it, though. What I see in this hire is actually Art Rooney II deciding, no. My team really is good enough to win right now. We just needed somebody else. Mainly because the previous guy decided he didn't want to be here anymore. And going for the safest possible thing he could think of. Hey, look, he's from Greenfield. Cool. I don't think that's going to have the desired effect. Remember, too, this is the owner of the football team who said that he would have been happy to run it back one more year with Mike Tomlin, at least. So if you take him at face value from that press conference 2 Tuesdays ago, Art Rooney II thought things were okay enough to not make any kind of maneuvers with his head coach. His head coach had to force his hand. And he went out and found, frankly, in many ways, in terms of bottom line results, the coach over his last 7 seasons who most resembles Mike Tomlin. A disappointing hire. He's a different coach than Mike Tomlin, but I don't think he's any better. I think he might be worse. It's the 4th Steelers head coach since 1969. The 3 previous guys were really unknown commodities to one degree or another. All 3 of them won Super Bowls, at least one. I would be stunned if Mike McCarthy even gets within 2 games of a Super Bowl for however long he's here. A very, very disappointing hire, and it opens up a whole bunch of questions on the periphery of this situation, some of which might be pretty uncomfortable to have to ask if you're a Steelers fan.